My name's Jen, and I work in a treatment center, and my passion is to help people that were just like me at one time. When I first came home from prison, I went to multiple places to get a job, and doors slammed in my face because nobody wants to hire somebody that robs people. Nobody trusts people. I couldn't even be trusted with a paper bag when I came home from prison, and I had this daughter I had to take care of all of a sudden, and I heard about the Fringe, and I went in, and before I walked in that door that day, I thought, if this doesn't work, I just have to go back to what I know. And it was like a life or death moment for me, and going into the Fringe that day and meeting with Patrick saved my life, and he had no idea. It's frustrating. It's frustrating to just have people shut doors in your face when you genuinely want to do better with your life. And you're not that same person that you was. But a lot of times people just write you off as what you were. Like the worst thing that you ever did is who you are for the rest of your life. And it's frustrating. And after so many doors close in your face, people just turn back to what they know. And I just kept beating on doors until somebody let me in. I feel like to tell my backstory, I have to tell the truth. And, I grew up around addiction, not my whole family, my parents, my dad, my mom. I lived in my mom's house. My parents were separated, but my family was good. Like, I grew up in a Pentecostal church. Like, this is what my family did, but both of my parents were addicts, so that was normal to me. Abusive relationships was normal to me. These are things that I grew up and I thought, okay, this is okay. This is how my life's supposed to be. This is how life's gonna go for me. When I was at a young age, I was allowed to drink alcohol. I was allowed to do recreational drugs. And as I grew up, I had no idea the pain that was gonna cause. As a teenager, it's good times and it's fun. But when you become an adult and it becomes something that you have to get out of bed in the morning, you didn't think that that's how your life was going to go. When I was young, I wanted to be a lawyer. I never dreamed that I was going to grow up and I was going to be a dope fiend. That wasn't part of my story. And so it wasn't. I had my daughter in 2007. Right before I had my daughter, I moved back in with my father. And me and my dad got into an argument one day. I was in college. Life was really, really good for me. I was about to be a mom, and I was going to be a good mom. I was going to break the mold right then. I was going to be a really good mom. And me and my dad got into an argument. He left, and I went to go down the street to find him, and he was dead. I found him overdosed. And my nightmare started there. That's where my nightmare began. I want to tell you that I didn't use it as an excuse, but I definitely did. It made sense to me in my addict mind because I was already an addict without being an addict, that if I do these drugs, I could be like my dad. I never thought in my selfish mind that doing these drugs to be like my dad was going to leave my daughter like my dad left me.
Wow, that's intense.
Yeah, I think I was 24 when my dad died. And my dad died right after I had my daughter, and so I got this baby, and I got this nightmare that I'm living, and I wanted nothing more than to just not have to live that nightmare anymore, at the cost of anybody. I didn't care that I had this baby that depended on me, and that's sad to say, but that's the facts, I didn't care about anything. I didn't care about anything but drowning my own pain. I immediately started shooting heroin, just boom, just right off the deep end. There was no gradually a doctor did this to me. None of that ever happened for me. Life was great. Idea for me, from what I came from, I was living good. So it was good for me, and I just immediately just plummeted. My dad died on September 8th. We buried him around September 15th. By September 15th, I was a full-blown heroin addict. There was no turning back. If I would have stopped at the day of the funeral, I would have been sick. It was immediate for me. I was 2 weeks away from graduating college, and I still don't know how I graduated college to this day. I feel like for me, it was more at that point, it was more superficial for me. It was more what people thought. Like, if I'm still going to school, then you can't possibly know that I'm addicted to heroin. It was more about how it looked for me, like for my family, for people from the outside looking in, for children's services, whoever was going to be judging me in that very moment. You can't judge me if I'm still going to college. I feel like this is one of my least favorite parts about my story because I never want to glamorize how my life was, but the facts are the facts. And, you know, there was times that we didn't have no electric because I spent the bill money on dope, you know, and I had my daughter in the house with candles, making her think that we was having a sleepover when really I just didn't have no money to pay the bills. And there was points when I was getting water from mud puddles. Like, life was not good for me. Anyways, at that point in my life, you know, everything was so bad that everybody was open season. I don't care who you was or where you was from or how close we was. It didn't matter to me. Like, if you had it and I wanted it, I was taking it. And I got to the point in the end of my addiction that every single day that I woke up, I just had hope that that was going to be my last time I had to wake up. I didn't want to live no more. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was tired, but I didn't know how to stop. Yeah, I mean, I want to tell you that, you know, after my dad died, that was just the turning point for me. But the turning point was when I was a really young child, and I was already an addict before I had a chance to ever pick up a drug. Like, I already was in addiction. I already knew what it was like. I already accepted that was part of my life. So when my dad died, it just made it okay. Like, it made it okay, open the door for me to be like, okay, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what my life's supposed to be like. This mold that I was trying to break was not real. Like, that wasn't reality for me. This is what I'm supposed to do. So it was just normal for me. What kid don't want to grow up to be like their parents? You know, and if this is how you was raised your entire life, you think that that's okay and that's normal, you know? And I'm not bashing either one of my parents. Like, I love my dad. My dad was like my best friend. Like, I still look up to him, even though all the issues that he had. I love my mama too. You know, that's just how their lives went. That's how their lives ended up. And because that's how their lives ended up when they brought me into this world, that's what life was. Like, it only progressed to get worse. Like, you know, after I owned my own house because my dad left me his house when he died. So this house I owned, I didn't have no utilities, and I eventually lost the house, and I was staying at people's houses anywhere I could. My grandparents always let me come home, and I always took that for granted. I always took that for granted. And it got to the point where I didn't care what I was doing. I didn't care where I was going, what I was doing, who I was taking from, who I was harming in the process. You know, in my mind, I thought I was like this great mom because my daughter was never hungry. She always had nice clothes, and she always had all these things. And I didn't take into account that she was outside the bathroom door, beating on the door for me to come out, because I would just leave her out there for hours. And, you know, it's sad, but it's the facts. It's the truth, and that's my truth. And at my worst times, at the end, I was breaking in houses every day, 3 or 4 houses a day, and it was normal to me, and it was okay because I justified it because nobody was home, so I'm not hurting anybody. How can I hurt anybody if nobody's in this house, you know? And that last day, I got the right house that last day. And I'm thankful today that I got that house. I broke into this house, and it happened to be a sheriff's house. And I don't even know why I'm able to sit here and tell you my story, honestly. I have no idea why, other than, you know, somebody saved me to tell my story to you. When I got arrested that day, I knew that was the end. Like, I knew because I knew the crime that I had committed. I knew there was no just walking out after that. There was nobody that was going to come post my bail. I done burnt every bridge, and I went back to make sure it was burnt. So nobody was coming to save me. It was just me. And it was almost like I could breathe, but I was so scared. I was scared of what was going to happen. And at that time, then I decided, hey, I'm pretty concerned about what's going to happen to my kid, which I hadn't been concerned about, but now I am, because I know I'm not coming home. I don't even know when I'm going to come out again. Well, I had some options of my sentence, but my options was like a cop-out. Like, I could blame other people for my actions, and I could get a lot less time. But the fact was that there was nobody else to blame but me. So I went to court, and that day I went to court, my mom and my grandma was there. The judge is telling me what a menace to society I am, and I'm a danger to the community, and all these things that I know in my heart that I'm not, but I was. I turned into that, and she gave me 6 years, and I can just remember in the background just hearing my mom hit the floor, and she was crying so bad. And I just felt like that was it for me. There was no hope after that. Like, there was no life after 6 years in prison. Like, I couldn't figure out how I was gonna go to prison. Like, that wasn't my life. Like, I wasn't supposed to be a dope fiend. I wasn't supposed to go to prison. I was supposed to be a good mom. I was gonna break the mold, and the mold broke me. I genuinely thought there was no comeback from that. Like, I thought that was it. Like, now I'm a dope fiend, now I'm a heroin addict, now I have a prison number. Like, nobody's gonna want me. Nobody's gonna want me in a relationship. I'm not ever gonna be able to be a mom. How am I ever gonna get a job after this? My family's never gonna forgive me when they find out who I really was and what I really did. Like, I was just, that ride was the end of my life. Going to prison and not having anything to hide behind anymore was the most shameful time of my life. Like, I felt like the lowest person that I've ever felt. Like, I felt really lost when I went to prison. I was scared and I was lost. I think that a major turning point for me was, it took me like 2 years into my 6-year sentence to stop trying to lie and manipulate people into letting me out of prison. Because I was gonna do good and I was gonna be good and things was gonna change, and they wasn't. They just wasn't. I had no desire to change at that point. I wanted to come home and I wanted to be the same nightmare I was when I went. And like 2 years into my sentence, I got to see my daughter for the first time. So that was like huge, you know. I got to see her and she told me how pretty I was and that she had never seen me like that. So that was eye-opening for me. And at that same visit, my mom was telling me about the day I got sentenced, that my grandpa was crying because he just knew he was never gonna see me again. And I just knew I couldn't be that person anymore. And I told myself, if I have a chance to see my grandpa again, I promise I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna be good. And it was just, that was it for me. That was my turning point. That's when I did all the programming. I went to college. Like, anything that I could do in there that would better me to come home and be a better person, I did it. I seized every single opportunity I had. Oh, the night before coming home from prison was like, I don't even think it was night. I never even went to sleep. Like, I was so excited and I was nervous and everything ran through my mind. Like, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna do this right and everything's gonna be good. And then it was like, nothing's gonna be good. How can anything go good after everything that I've done? Like, I don't deserve for life to be good for me after this. Like, it's been good for me in here because being a criminal is so accepted in prison. So, you know, everybody's nice to you because they're just like you. So when you go out and they toss you out into the world, everybody ain't like you. Everybody's not a criminal and everybody's not open-handed. Like, hey, we want you to come back to our community because you're a menace. You know, like when I left to the community, I was the same person that left. They had no idea what prison could do for me inside. So, you know, coming home was scary because people expected that same Jen that went to prison to come home. I think it's important for people to feel accepted, whether it's at home, whether it's at work, when they come home, because they're gonna go right back to what they know. You know, feeling unaccepted is what led them to get to where they was. You know, when you feel like you're not accepted, you're hiding from things and you're doing things to not have to be yourself, to not have to be who you are. And I think an important thing for me to tell you is that a lot of people don't have the opportunities that I did. Like, when I came home to an amazing family. Like, they fully trusted me as soon as I came back. It wasn't like coming back into this dark mean society that was like, Jen, you're a criminal, you're a felon. Like, when I came home, my family was like, that's Jen. Like, they remembered who I was. Like, so little things just added up to that. I feel like reentry programs are important because without them, the criminal that left is gonna come home and be the same criminal. When you don't have an opportunity to do better, you don't do better. Coming home to be a mom again was really crazy to me. Because when I left this little baby and she was like 5, and when I came home, she was like a teenager. So it was like a whole different person. I didn't even know her, and she didn't know me. The person that she knew was a secretive person that was always in the bathroom. So she didn't know me and I didn't know her, and it was scary. It was scary for both of us, and it was challenging, but she wanted my attention so bad. And it was easy in the beginning, like, because she wanted to be around me all the time. She missed me, she loved me. And then as the time went on, the pain started to surface and the anger started to surface. And she resented me for a lot of things that I had done, and I deserved that, but it didn't make it any less painful. It was hard. It was hard. It still is hard. It's not like great now. Today it's not great, but we have a relationship. I have her all the time. She's with me all the time, but it's hard. It's trying. I think that something that I would tell myself is that it's okay to mess up. It's okay to mess up. And it's okay to not be perfect. And you don't always have to protect people that won't protect you. My dream is definitely I want to have a sober living for moms. A lot of sober living places and recovery houses, you can't take your kids. And I feel like that's a huge barrier for mothers to get clean, you know? Like, when you're in addiction, you already ain't a great mom. So when you get clean, you know, you want to be a good mom again. So if my choice is to go to this place without my kid to better myself, or to stay in this situation, whether it's an abusive relationship or unstable housing, or it doesn't matter, you're still with your kid. So I'm gonna stay with my kid, you know? So I wanna give women like me the opportunity to be in a safe place, to get sober, to get on their feet with their kids at the same time. I feel like you can't build your life back unless you're building it with your child. I feel like if I could talk to myself when I was incarcerated, I would tell myself to just breathe. Like, you write the end of your story. Just because of what you're doing right now and where you're at right now does not mean that that's who you are for the rest of your life. Like, everything that I did in my past does not define who I am today. Like, I didn't let all of these barriers stop me. You just gotta be hungry. No, I think that, you know, it's important for you to know that you saved my life. Like, the person I am today, I'm this person because of me, but you helped me get to this person. It took a lot of hands to get me where I'm at today. Like, it's not something you can just do on your own. You can't just come home from prison and just magically just be this great person. Like, it takes help. It takes a village to get you where you're at, and you had a hand in that. And the Fringe had a hand in that, and my family had a hand in that. My daughter and I had a hand in that. So I just want you to know I appreciate you. And I know that people can benefit from my story, from what I'm saying to you. And I don't want you to think that everything's great now, because it's not. Life is still life, and life still happens. I just learned how to deal with it a different way. So